Hi there. In this tutorial I'm going to talk a little bit about how to set up configurations and what's contained in a configuration for ScopeSync. So I've loaded up the standard ScopeSync default loader, and I'm now going to create a new configuration. Now often you'll be working with templates, but this will give you a better sense of what's involved in creating a configuration. So first of all, I'll click on the new button. I choose a location where I'm going to save it, and click Save. This brings us up the new configuration window where we can set up the basic settings. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to put it in a library set. Now I'll explain about libraries in a second, but this is a grouping of configurations. I'm the author, and a little bit of text about it, so I'm just going to copy the text from there. Now all of that information that I've just put in appears in the configuration chooser and allows me to work out which configuration to select when I'm loading one. This next setting here, standard scope parameters, this determines whether or not the configuration will automatically include the necessary parameters to drive the header bar, so all the buttons that appear across here. So typically you'd look to include that. And finally, we're going to choose which layout to use with our configuration. I'm going to choose a basic template, so I'm going to go with the 8x1 template. So that's all there is to it to create a new configuration. So I'll click Add Configuration. What this window here means is the fact that we haven't yet added the location that I put my configuration into the library. So the first thing I'll do here is click OK and add that new directory into the file locations. So that was my documents and ScopeSync configs. Okay, and I'm closing that window. That's now saved and updated the library. So if I open up the configuration chooser now, you can see that that new configuration has been added into the library automatically, and it's got the details that I just put in there. So that's pretty much all there is to it. What I'll also quickly do now is show you how to create your first parameter. In a future tutorial I'm going to talk in a bit more detail about this, but it will just give you a start point in terms of setting up. So I want to add a parameter that's mapped to my first slider here. So I'm going to right click and click on Add Parameter. Now that just creates a default parameter that runs from 0 to 100. I can also go in there and edit the parameter. Probably better if I bring it down so you can see it. And in this screen, again, I'll talk about it in more detail. You can also select from a preset. So you'll see that in the default library we have a large selection of basic presets for parameters. So if I want to have a decibel based parameter, I can choose that from here and you'll see the settings appear. And now the parameter is set up for a decibel range. I can also go in and edit the top level details, so change the name of it, and I can also set the parameter values. What that's done is that's added some settings that you can now review in the configuration manager, which you get to through this button. So within this section you can see what's already included in my configuration, so the default scope parameters that I was talking about earlier that have been set up for you, and also the new parameter that I created, which goes under the host parameters list. Now I'll come back and explain about that in a future video, but generally you'll be creating host parameters, and those are the ones that run across the ScopeSync link. And you'll also see that the slider has been mapped down here to that parameter. So that's just a very brief introduction to configurations. As I say, I'll come on to talk in more detail about parameters and mapping in the next one.